a certain point in your life, you get really miserable and you say to yourself, there's got to be something else. So every decision we've made up till then really has to align with our values. What are your values? I mean, really, what are you? Do you really know what your values are? We all say family, but drill down. I mean, okay, freedom. What is freedom? What does that mean? Right. Financial freedom. What does that really mean? So I think the first thing everybody needs to do is focus on what your values are and start making those decisions based on your values.
Welcome to the Threefold Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is the podcast where you'll not only learn how you can achieve massive success in multifamily real estate investing, but also how you can simultaneously pursue great relationships with your family and a better walk with God. You can achieve financial freedom through real estate investing without sacrificing the relationships that mean the most to you. Now, here's your host, Lee Yoder.
Welcome back, Threefold listeners. We've got a great show for you today. I hope you're having a great week. We've got two joining us today. Not only Gino Barbaro, but his beautiful wife, Julia, is joining us today. They are the host of the Julia and Gino podcast, a show dedicated to spousal communication and growing your relationship. The couple have 6 children, and Gino is the co-founder of Jake and Gino, an educational company dedicated to creating multifamily entrepreneurs. Gino has amassed a portfolio of $225 million in assets under management in real estate. I've been following Gino for a long time. I've also been following Julia and Gino for a while because, as I was telling them before, my wife and I are very much trying to follow in their footsteps as far as we are in real estate. We're in real estate full time. We buy apartment buildings, but more importantly, we're raising young people. We are homeschooling them. We're Christ followers, and we want to do all of this together and do it all really well, not just the real estate side. So you guys are the perfect two to have on to talk about this. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us on, Lee.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys, let's go ahead and start. Probably a lot of people know your story, but in case anybody doesn't, you guys have a really interesting story. You're up in New York. Gino, you come from a line of, or at least with your family, you had a restaurant. That was your business. You were all in on that. You kind of started to maybe not see that as the long-term future for your family. And you guys made a big move, a big transition. If anybody thinks that, it would be a big deal for them to leave their job or do something, then you guys are the ones to follow because you guys did it. Can you take us back there and kind of what was going through your heads and what led to you making such a big move?
I think it all comes down to values-based decision-making. And I can say that now and I have clarity now, but just something didn't feel incongruency in my life back in 2012, 2013, 2014, New York State in particular. We have Mr. Cuomo as governor saying that conservative values don't align. You can take my tax money, but my values don't align. So the state wasn't doing it for me. And you see what's going on there right now. It's a mess. Crime, taxes, the quality of living. It's just in line with what I was looking for. So I challenge everybody out there. If you're not feeling right, if your situation isn't okay, you can do one of two things. You can sit around and did what I did for years and just put up with it. There will come a breaking point sooner or later, or you just have a miserable existence. And for me, it was February of 2014. I'm in the kitchen. I'm on the floor with a hairdryer. It's 6 degrees outside and my pipes are freezing. And I'm like, I'm wearing long johns. I don't want to live this life anymore. I'm done with it. You know what I mean? That's what pushed me over. And I think like the values-based decision-making, once again, I was working weekends. I was working the holidays. I didn't want that. And for most of my life, it was okay. I put up with it. But at a certain point in your life, you get really miserable and you say to yourself, there's got to be something else. So every decision we've made up till then really has to align with our values. And I would challenge everybody listening to this. What are your values? I mean, really, what are you? Do you really know what your values are? We all say family, but drill down. I mean, okay, freedom. What is freedom? What does that mean? Right. Financial freedom. What does that really mean? So I think the first thing everybody needs to do is focus on what your values are and start making those decisions based on your values.
Yeah, Gino, you just made the perfect point. And a lot of this, Lee, was not thought about years ago, but when we're now years later, we're looking back and we're like, wow, we were making our decisions based off the family values. And just like Gino was saying, he was literally, unfreezing pipes with a hairdryer. And he came home, sometime after that. And I said, whatever you want. If you want to go to Florida, let's go. And I think sometimes a lot of people are like, well, I can't believe you said yes. Well, what else would I have said? If you really think about it, we're living our life, trying to put each other first. Should I be selfish and say, well, I want, my whole family's here outside of our nuclear family. Well, what about them? Am I putting my husband before them? And that's a really hard it's hard to answer that sometimes
Yep.
because like Gino said, a lot of people I talk to, they're like, oh yeah, my, I put God first, my spouse, and then my family. And I said, but do you based off of your actions?
Right. Yeah.
Because it's easy to say things, but by our actions is really where we're gonna find out.
So in March of 2016, I left the restaurant and I said to my wife and the kids, let's go to Florida for 3 or 4 months. We can work remote. We have the real estate. And we went down and we loved it. A couple of the kids didn't. March of 2017, we come down to St. Augustine. We live here for a month to make sure that it's the right thing. So it's calculated. It's not like let's burn the ships. It's like, let's be methodical about it. Let's make sure. And, for all the people out there that are saying, well, I can't do that because I got to take my kids out of school and they're going to be unhappy. If the spouses aren't happy, then the relationship or the family is not going to be unhappy. For sure. And I needed a change. I needed boundaries from my family. My family was pressuring me to do certain things. Did I leave the restaurant? Did I not leave it? I wanted to leave New York. I just needed a fresh new start. And thankfully, it all worked out really well because we've been down here for 5 years. I love it living here. The weather's great. I haven't had to deal with COVID up in New York. It's just been a completely different lifestyle for me. And now you look back, you're like, oh, well, you're lucky you made a couple of decisions. No, it was like more that I had thought about it. I had planned it. And we all have a fallback. If it didn't work down here, anybody listening to this, you can always go back to your former life. You can go. I could have gone back. I could have bought another restaurant. I could have moved back up to New York. I would have been in my mom's basement for a few months. Would have sucked it up for a little bit,
One of the things to remember, Lee, too, is that it's really challenging. And a lot of people look at us and like, well, you guys had it easy. I'm like, no. I mean, we had tears, lots of tears in our home for quite some time. And it's devastating.
There are tears of joy for me, Lee. I don't know about you guys, but I had tears of joy streaming down my face.
No, though, is it because a lot of people are like, oh, it looks so easy because you're looking in from somewhere else, but being in the moment, it's a challenge for everybody. And I think that's really
and you get the sense just from your guys' story, it wasn't a rash decision. Gino, you talked about the pipes, what you said that was 2014 and 2016 is when you came. I mean, so
yes,
you were hustling. I think that's an important point that we're not telling people, hey, the day you come home and you're not happy with your job, just go do something else. No, I mean, you stuck it out for years. You hustled for years. You tried to make it work. So Julia, when he comes home, this is not a surprise, right? That he wants out, right? I mean, and he had hustled the whole way and had provided for the family, and the family's doing okay. But you knew for a long time this was building, and you knew that we were going to need to make a change. Neither of you want to see the other one not fulfilled.
Yes, so truly, and I think that's important to know is that I watched it for a very long time. We didn't have the communication that we have now, but I still was very aware of it. And so when he would come home, and it wasn't like I just don't like my job. It was draining him.
Sure.
And I saw it happen over the years, but I didn't know that there was a solution. I had no idea that there was something that could happen. And so when he did mention it, like you said, it took 2 years. We couldn't sell our house. We couldn't find a place down here. We didn't know where we wanted to be. Yeah. And so over those lots of praying. And at one point I'm like, maybe God doesn't want us to go. And the second I said that is when everything worked out. So
yeah. It's funny how it works out like
so
that.
A lot of amazing things when you pray and you really are paying attention to how God works in your life. It's incredible. A lot of us don't really just pay attention to it. And so we ask for things and then we're closed-minded and we're not looking around. But when you open your eyes, God is amazing. He answers everything that you ask. Sometimes it's not the way you want it. Sometimes it's not the path that you choose, but it happens. And I think
sometimes his timing is way different. Gino was looking for him in 2014 to get moved down to Florida.
And my husband, if you know my husband, he wants things done right now.
So do I. Yep.
And so that patience is really important. And that preparation is important, so that's something to remember. It doesn't just happen overnight.
As you get down and as you're setting it up, what were some of the early, maybe trials, but also some of the early wins and like, wow, this is, maybe like, this is a great move.
Yeah.
So we rented a golf cart. I'd go fishing after work with the kids.
He's trying to buy their happiness.
Tennis. It was just completely different. The people down in Florida were much nicer. Down here, I would live near the beach, so it was just I just enjoyed everything here. You actually walk into a Starbucks and people would actually talk to you. I think the kids really realized the lifestyle was a little bit different down here. And for me, when I moved down, we had a bigger nut than most people. When you have 6 children, you have a lot of moving parts. So I could have made the excuse that, it's going to be expensive. I just wanted a change and I wanted to see what could be different in my life. And I figured, this is a great start. And I'm going to reiterate it once again. proper planning prevents poor performance. You don't just wake up one day and go, oh, if you're going to have the long-term mindset, you're going to start creating solutions today. It may take a little while for them to implement, but is a plan and involve the children, but you're the ultimate decision maker. And then from there, it's going to be hard to have 6 kids and have input of where, but deciding where. And then once we go down here, we moved into this house, we're going to buy a golf cart. Okay, let's buy the golf cart. And then looking back at it, during COVID is when the kids really understood that we made the right decision, because being down here, it was totally different. Being able to be outside, being able not to be locked in the house and being able to walk around, they finally dawned on them. And that's the thing as a leader. Sometimes the people you lead don't understand the decisions you make. But if you're a strong leader and you really have the conviction of what you want to do, you'll be able to look back and go, well, this is why we did it. And your people following you be like, okay, now I get it. That's why it's hard being a leader sometimes.
Yeah, but also at the same time, it's important to know, for us, we have 8 in the family, that we're all so different and we handle things differently. Because my husband was like, let's go. And he didn't even look back. Meanwhile, you have 3 of the kids sobbing every day for 2 years. So how do you handle that? And I think one of the interesting things is I realized that I had to show the kids that I was also devastated. Because a lot of times as a leader, as a mom of the family, you have to be strong and you have to let them know it's good. Everything's good. You're going to meet new friends. We're going to find a place, where we fit in. But it's also important. And I learned this, of course, the hard way of trying to hide my emotions and then realizing that, my gosh, what if I just let them know that it's really hard for me? And that really helps. That really helps them actually come and be like, wow. So I think that's important. Sometimes we think as a parents, we need to be always strong and not show our emotions, not show our difficult times, but it's important for them because they're learning from us. And so when they become an adult, what are they're going to think? Well, mom had it easy. Mom didn't complain about anything. So therefore I should too, and that causes for a difficult adulthood. We're trying to figure it out as parents. And you have 2 children. We're always messing up, trying something new, trying to figure it out. Yeah. And it's just the way it is.
Well, what I hear coming out of there, though, is that you guys are talking to your kids, that they're not, hey, guys, made a decision. There's a lot of talking about, hey, we understand. Ultimately, again, God has placed you under us and we're here to make the decisions. And so we're going to make the right decision for our entire family. But yeah, I think you're right, Julie. It's a great point. To pretend like feelings aren't there is just not healthy. And no one's going to grow up well that way. So, hey, you have these feelings, and then you're right. You can be a great leader. Say, I also have these feelings. Yes. And here's how I'm choosing to deal with them. Not, we don't push them down. We don't pretend like they're not there. Yeah, it's so good. I appreciate you guys sharing that. Gino, a little bit of real estate here. You've taught thousands to buy real estate. What did real estate, your portfolio at the time, how did that play into it? Because you're walking away from a restaurant. You didn't walk away and have nothing. You already had the portfolio built up a little bit to support that move. Can you tell us just a little bit about where you were at with your portfolio at the time?
I decided to choose Jacksonville/St. Augustine as my backyard because I was moving down here to buy assets and to say, hey, I can start another property management company, another office in this Jacksonville area, and I can start managing assets. I can create a management fee. I wasn't there quite yet with my cash flow number that I needed. I was, but at the same time, you're just always fearful. We did a bunch of refis, and I kept putting money back of these refis back into these deals and scaling up the portfolio. I mean, it's just one of those times where you need to really, the Parkinson's law states basically that your income and your lifestyle are pretty much hand in hand. As your income rises, so does your lifestyle. That's basically what everyone does. And unfortunately, that's not how it should be. So for me, for a couple of years, I was pretty lean. I mean, we ended up coming down here, rented a home, didn't have any debt. So I was really lean, reinvesting all my money into these deals. And I'm like, let me move to this market where I can buy assets here. I can start creating a property management company. That's another stream of revenue for me to pay certain bills. And that was my mindset. But the portfolio, I think we had around 700 units at the time. So it was good.
All up in Tennessee,
the vast majority of them were in Tennessee. Yes, I didn't have any. We still don't own anything, and I own a couple single family homes here in Florida now. But yeah, we didn't own anything down here. And the problem was, Lee, I listened to all the locals at the time. Jacksonville was a pretty normal market 5 or 6 years ago. And when I moved here, the locals thought everything was out of control, out of whack, but they didn't know Amazon's coming. They didn't know it was like 70, 80 a door. And now it's like 180, 190 a door. And I miss that. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We continue to buy in Knoxville. But for me, when you're at around 70, 80% of whatever number you need, and you're deciding to think of doing it, that's when you should really do it. I don't think anybody should completely quit their jobs and go into real estate full time if they have no support. Maybe they may have a spouse who's working, or they maybe have some money saved up. I think that extra burden, that extra stress creates the get-there-itis, that FOMO. I gotta get this deal in the contract. I've got to do this deal. This is bringing me fees. Don't get caught into that, because that's when you start making those bad decisions and you start having emotions and fear take over, when logic should be ruling a lot of those decisions.
Yeah. You mentioned, hey, 80 a door. Now we're 180 a door. I'm sure you've ridden that wave though in Knoxville, and I know you guys have done very well. And it's really all over the country. So it's gone like that. It's kind of gone. You can't see me, but on this vertical, price per door, rent has skyrocketed. All this. What are you telling your students now, Gino? You got a ton of students. We've come this far. Are you expecting it to correct at some point? Or are you telling your students, hey, be bigger reserves, more conservative? What do you tell them now, since we've run up so far for the past few years?
Well, I teach students, it's really based on our framework and also what we call the 3 pillars of real estate. I mean, a good investor is going to know to make money when the market's going up and the market's going down, whether you're in the stock market, crypto market, whatever that is. And for real estate, buying in really good areas, being able to buy for decades long, buying for the longer term, buying quality assets. So you have to create a buy right criteria. What kind of assets are you looking for? And that changes. When we started buying assets 10, 12 years ago, you're buying older assets. Now, as the market has matured and we're going more into a seller's market, all of a sudden you're looking at newer assets, because there's a lot of CapEx, and those price points between B's and C's are pretty much similar. When that readjusts, then you can start buying properties that are a little bit older. But it's all dependent upon price point, what you're buying these assets at. But having a clear-cut strategy, I don't think, for us, fortunately, but unfortunately, we're becoming a renter nation. People love to rent. Transitional, give me the keys. I don't have to worry about anything. I think the demographics are playing out with baby boomers, more millennials. They tend to rent more. And that's all I'm going to say, because my wife's going to just probably knock me in the head if I keep talking about real estate. But I think like the real estate thing is like everything else in life. There's ebbs and flows. Right now, there's a little less. I thought there'd be more deal flow right now. Right now, deal flow has actually slowed down. Rates are supposed to shoot up. And so all these experts are telling us stuff, and all these experts have been wrong for the last X amount of years. Back in 2020, rents were supposed to go in the toilet. We were supposed to lose all this money, but it didn't happen because the government stepped in. Now rates went up. We're supposed to get some kind of deal flow. Deal flow slowed down a little bit because sellers and buyers are confused. When we have an economy and we have leadership that really gives us no direction of where we're going, we're a little uncertain of what's going to happen. If I sell my deal, where am I putting my money? I don't know where I'm going to put my money. So why do I sell my deal? So we're only looking at motivated sellers. It's going to shake itself out. Just be consistent. Go in there, network, talk to the brokers, keep doing those property tours, keep underwriting the deals. If you're not putting deals on the contract right now, now's the time to start looking for additional investors, limited partners, equity. So there's always something to be done in this environment.
Yeah. And I think the thing you said there, having the long-term view and putting in, good debt. I know you guys buy right, manage right, finance right, like getting that long-term debt. I mean, set yourself up and look at it as a 10-year instead of, these guys coming in today thinking it's going to be a quick 3-year flip like they've been doing. Yeah, maybe not. Yeah,
exactly. Right. And that's understanding the market cycle, knowing that happened, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And that's been playing up to. I had a student who actually looked at a deal and I said, how long they owned it? They owned it for 7 months. So we're seeing people trying to exit because they made a mistake now, or that, it's not multifamily, is not for me, or it's run up so much. That's going to stop. So you have to look for the 5 to 7 year hold right now, because if you do get a correction, you have to be able to weather that correction and be able to hold it for a little bit longer period. So understanding that is crucial.
Yeah. They always say the only way you can lose is if you're forced to sell. So as long as you can hold, you're never going to lose. You hold and we'll come back. We'll bounce right back. We hit on values-based, like having a values-based life and making value-based decisions. Someone that wants to head down that road, they don't feel like they're there now. Maybe what's a first step? What are some things that you guys have done to make sure you're actually doing it? Like you said, a lot of people, they might say to you, yeah, my wife's first and then my kids and my faith is number one and real estate's after that. But you look at their schedule, you look at different things and you're like, it doesn't really seem like that. What's maybe a first step to get them toward actually living like that?
Well, yeah, I think the first step is to know what your values are. and actually write them down, because a lot of us, and like I said, this is new to me within the past few years, is to know what they are, write them down, and then show yourself evidence that you actually, put that into action. What
Yeah.
do you do that you put your husband first? What do you do that you put your children first? Because a lot of times we say these things and we can talk ourselves into anything, but by our actions is really where we're going to, and another thing is ask the person closest to you if you live according to that, because they're very honest. So ask your children questions. I mean, I ask my kids things all the time these days. I ask them what I could do more for them. Like, what would you like to see? How would you like to see a better mom? Like, what does that mean to you? So these things are, we forget that we can communicate differently with whoever we want if we just open up and ask questions. Even to my husband, I could say, what can I do more? What is it that, do you feel like I'm holding back on certain things? Tell me about that. And I think that's the communication is not open, but a lot of times it's not open with ourselves. And that's why that awareness on what we actually do and give ourselves evidence that we do live according. And if we don't, which a lot of us don't, decide to, and then ask yourself, okay, what can I do to put my husband first? What can I do to put whoever it is first? And then make a plan for it. And then take those. And I mean, when I say a plan, I'm talking like simple steps, because we really have a hard time with being a better mom. What does that mean? Be a better mom. Okay, here's what I can do.
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean? So make it simple.
Yep.
So Lee, let me add a couple of things to that. Values are going to change. One of my values that I've had that I didn't even know until one of my partners was discussing it is simplicity. Making more money. I don't need to have 5 and 6 homes. I don't need to have pets. I don't need to have 12 cars.
You just didn't want pets.
I don't, well, I didn't. Well, my kids, the kids. So the kids are dying for pets, not getting pets because I'm not walking to pets. I want to go on vacation for 2 weeks.
I love to get them riled up.
Yeah.
With certain comments.
But as far as that goes, I want a simple life. So are you leading a simple life? Is that what you truly want? Or is that truly your value? Is that what it is? So make sure that you, even though you're writing down a piece of paper, is that what you really want? And it's okay if that's not what you want.
I have to this just happened recently. One of our daughters, she's a 4th child. She is amazing in gymnastics, and I mean, incredible. And so we all go to the gymnastics app. So 3 of the kids are in gymnastics with her, and they constantly ask her to be on the team. And I finally had to take the coaches aside. I said, listen, we have 6 children, 2 of them are adults, but still we have a lot of family. I said, do you think that I want to go away for every weekend with one of my children as the other kids are home with their husband, leaving him literally every weekend? And they're like, no. I said, so do you understand the reason why I keep saying no? And this is important because my daughter needs to hear it. They need to hear it, because not in a mean way, but they do pressure you. Your daughter's really good. She'd be great at gymnastics teams. I know, but we don't live for her gymnastics life.
I know. And most people give into it.
Yes, they do. And they're missing all weekend. And they're like, you know what, we understand.
So family's important, but I'm away all weekend with this child who's never going to become a U.S. gymnast because the probability of that is, and it's not really good for her body long-term. So I can get, I don't want to go in that rabbit hole.
This is what we're talking about when we make decisions based off of it. And I know there's some diehard sports fans out there, and I'm sorry if this is bothering them. But it's really important that we know. I mean, I had a cousin, the same thing, dance their whole life.
200 days a year in baseball.
Dance their whole life. And then they go off to college, never danced again. So it's really important that we just sit as a family and say, what's important? And they would rather too, sit at the table and have dinner with us than go and gymnastics.
Yeah, what's clear is that when you guys sit down and you come up with your values, making sure one of your kids ends up on the U.S. gymnastics team wasn't that high on the list. I mean, there were a lot of other things. So and you're actually living out like that. Do you guys do any kind of like annual retreat, like when you kind of get away and do some goal setting, or do you do anything like that?
We live on vacation, so every day is a vacation here for us. So
you're on retreat all the time.
I mean, we're together all the time. I mean, like we do podcasts together. We have breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That's probably the closest we have been in our whole marriage. So it's going to be 24 years since we started the podcast, because we have to actually talk to each other, but also to other people. And so it's like therapy almost.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
So I always say, even if nobody's listening, start a podcast. You don't even have to tell your wife that it's not going out live.
You let your wife do all the notes, and then you let it rip, and she gets prepared, and you come on, and you just
it's, I love it.
It's the communication. That's really where I think a lot of couples struggle, is because they are afraid to say something. They're afraid to ask a question. And so slowly over time you separate, and you don't mean to do it. A lot of people just say, oh, well, we fell out of love, whatever.
And I think we're on the
Separate.
same team. That's the other thing that couples and spouses and children have to understand. We are all on
We're
the
working
same team,
together.
trying to work together,
Yeah.
trying to go
Yeah.
towards a goal. And I think, honestly, what you said, those annual retreats probably work really well. We've never done one. I don't know why. That's probably something that we could sit down and do our goals. But I'm more the financial person. I'm creating trusts and all that. I'm actually speaking to my children because once we're gone, my son, who's 20 years old right now, hopefully he'll be in his 50s, but he'll be taking care of that trust. And I want to make a legacy trust where it's more of a spousal lifetime where it outlasts just his generation into grandkids and great grandkids, like the Rockefeller Trust. So some talking like that's stuff that we're working on right now. I'm going to have my children involved in it because it's going to leave a legacy for their kids as well. But for us, we already know what our values are for our family. We know what we want. We homeschool, so we're home together all the time. So I think it's less important for us.
Like I said, again, new to us. And so it's never, ever too late. We have kids 23, 20, all the way down to 8. It's never too late to reconnect with your children. I don't care how old they are. It doesn't matter. You know, because I've said things to our oldest who, really was our guinea pig. Unfortunately, they'll, and I'm a different mom to the younger kids because I don't have the babies and I don't. So my life is different. And so I do often apologize to her. I'm like, listen, I couldn't be there as much as I could. And she's like, Mom, I understand. You did the best you could.
But she was the only one that got to experience being an only child, and
that's right.
Thank you.
Things,
right?
That's right.
Yeah, there's good and bad. And God blesses all of those situations.
Absolutely. He makes up for what you lack. And I think that's so true. And we have to remember that.
Yeah. So obviously you guys live such an integrated life. Like you said, you're homeschooled. My wife and I experience this with homeschooling our kids. So there's so many blessings in it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I can tell you guys wouldn't either, but it does make it challenging at times to maybe compartmentalize things or kind of have boundaries, right? Because you could kind of just be talking about work all the time and talking about the podcast because you're doing that together, which is great. But then maybe you miss out on opportunity to connect on a deeper level and talk about things that aren't real estate, right? And I'm speaking from experience.
Yes, I can tell.
So
Yes.
How do you maybe set up some boundaries, or how do you guys compartmentalize things? Or, hey, when we're doing this, it's this, or maybe you don't. How does it work out for you guys?
I don't want boundaries, so that she can answer that.
He doesn't want boundaries.
We can just talk about anything. I mean, like as far as let's talk about real estate. Let's talk about Jake and Gino community. Let's talk going, in
but
November.
At the same time, at times, sometimes it is like you said, it's overdone. And the kids will sit there like, can we stop talking about this? And even during school hours, it's tempting to go sneak off and do something else. And I have to be disciplined. And it really comes down to being disciplined. The kids are a little bit older. Once they start to read on their own, it's like freedom. I love it.
Yeah, right.
So
Teach yourself.
I feel like, yay. Yes. So that has just happened. But in the earlier years, it was just all the time. You're on all the time. You get no break. And all the people listening, it does end at some point. You don't think it's going to end. You don't think the kids are ever going to grow up, but they do. It's amazing. I slept for the first time a few years ago, for the first time over through the night. And that was amazing. And so I think that's something
I sleep like a baby, Lee. Nothing wakes me up. You know what I'm saying?
But somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah, somebody's got to sleep. I figured he worked really hard. Not that I didn't, but I could just doze off during the day here and there.
Yeah.
The boundaries, because like you said, it's you wake up, you're with the kids and you're putting them to sleep. So you're always with them. And it does take a little bit of discipline on your part to say, okay, right now we're going to do school. I'm going to put away what I really want to be doing is setting for a podcast or doing some kind of coaching with the Jake and Gino community. I have to just set that aside and kind of schedule myself accordingly. Otherwise, it's overlapping and I'm really not getting much done.
So those are the cons. The pros of what we do is we have well-formed children. We actually have kids who love to hang out with us. Actually, dad is cool to them.
Love that.
So there's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of stress. Nothing that is worth it in life is easy. We're not sugarcoating anything, but I've never had terrible teenage years. I don't know what that means. That's self-inflicted. I have a rather good relationship with all of them. Went fishing with my daughter, who's going to be a senior in high school. Woke up the other day. Let's go out, Dad. Sure. I mean, I have a great relationship with them, and that stems from homeschooling. And more importantly, they have a great relationship amongst themselves because they're together. Now, do they want to kill each other once or twice a day? Absolutely. Yeah. But they have a great
Because they're
relationship
so close.
amongst themselves, and
Yeah.
they're learning what we're teaching them. There's no
You just said something, and I think it's important, is a lot of
I
people
say a lot,
ask,
baby.
you
What did I
do say
say?
a lot. A lot of people ask about how to raise the kids properly and all that fun stuff. It really does start with the parents. It's how I speak to him. It's how Gino speaks to me is the number one way that your kids are going to learn how to be respectful. We have arguments quite often, not that often, but we have them enough.
And I'm usually right, but that's okay.
Well, I have backup now. So my kids are my backup. But it's important for them to see that we could get heated a little bit, but then we come to terms and we're like, all right, let's talk about it. And I'll talk about it openly in front of them. It's, that's completely fine, because I want them to learn how to have a discussion, how to have a
resolution,
and then you make up and then you get over it. See, there's no bitterness, because the bitterness is where a lot of families are gone that road, and it's really it's not nice. So I think that's the number one thing to remember is, what is your relationship together always, but also in front of the children, because they are learning. I don't care what you teach them. I don't care what you read them. They are learning from you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And like they say, more is caught than is taught. They're just watching. But I think it goes back to what you're saying, guys, about being on the same team. And when you feel like you're on the same team, when you get to hard things, it's like, hey, this is really hard. We don't like it, but we're in it together. So we're going to get through the hard, versus, hey, it's really hard and it's your fault that it's hard. And so I'm mad at you because it's hard. But when you're talking about things, when you include your kids, when you're so integrated like you guys are, it's like, look, we've got this business, this Jake and Gino business, these apartments, these podcasts we're doing. This is our family. This is what we do. We do it together. And I think it's really important, Julie, I think talking about with the kids and they can be independent. I think that's so important. And one thing I think you don't get when you do go to school and you have all these programs, as a kid, you're constantly being somebody else is supplying your what you're doing. Like they're doing things for you. It's like, what do I do next? You tell me. With your homeschool kids, it's like, you need to go figure it out right now. I'm going to go do a podcast. This is what we're doing. You've got to go read. You've got to go play. Go figure it out. No one's going to tell you what to do right now, versus if they're in school all day, somebody's telling them every hour of the day what to do for fun, what to do for work, and then they go to the program or they go to the sports, whatever, versus you're like, guys, figure it out. And I think that speaks to what you're talking about, Gino. You've got well-formed kids that know how to figure it out on their own, because you're not handing it to them all the time.
Yeah. So, one of the things too, and this is important, you mentioned boundaries earlier, but the thing is, we as parents step into their boundaries a lot. And we try to teach them things. We try to teach them how to cook, how to clean, how to do all these things at home. But yet we see them, we're like, oh, no, you're not doing it right. Let me come in and do it my way. You have to do it my way, and that is very damaging to the kids. So what they do is they're like, okay, mom, you do it, and they'll back off, and then we get mad at them that they're not doing their chores. And one of the hardest things ever is to teach the children how to cook, and then let them do it. Let them make mistakes, let them mess up, and all of that, because it's really about us. It's our ego that we want to do it our way. But when we let the kids make the mistakes, and the little mistakes, they're, we have to make mistakes. Otherwise we're not going to get better at something. And just sit back and let them do it. I let two of our girls, 15 and she was 16 and 13 this year, make Thanksgiving dinner for the whole entire family, everyone that came over.
Wow.
They did the whole thing from the beginning to the end. And I sat there and if they asked me a question, I let them, unbelievable. It was the best Thanksgiving for me, because I didn't make it. But
my wife always says any food that she didn't make tastes so good. If she didn't have to make it, it always tastes good.
That's why my food is so good, because you don't make it.
That's right. Well, Gino, back to you. I always like to ask at the end, what would you say is the key ingredient? Man, this is good for a former restaurant. I always ask it like this, but especially for a former restaurant. What's a key ingredient for being successful as a real estate investor? I know you got your buy right. You're probably going to give me three, but what one?
I was just talking to a student half an hour before here, and she was talking about what she did with her husband, and they run triathlons, and they were just persistent and they worked hard. And I think that's the key to success in life, in any endeavor. I'm like, if you can do a triathlon, you can buy a multifamily. I mean, because she was struggling with underwriting in the very beginning. I'm like, underwriting is a little difficult in the beginning, but once you've done 10 or 12 underwritings, you get it. But most of us quit after 3 or 4. So to me, I think it's persistence and being willing to do the things that suck, that are really hard in
Yeah.
life.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then once you figure that piece out, then you can move on to the next skill that you want to learn, and then move on to the next one, because it's all the same thing. You have to start as a beginner, but then willing to put in the time and the effort and the hours, and you'll get good at it at one point. And then having that self-esteem, this is what you're trying to teach the kids, that self-esteem will allow you to not be able to quit, and having that growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. The growth mindset is always telling you, I'm here to learn. I'm here to get better. My qualities aren't fixed. They're able to be changed. And I think having that as a real estate investor, having that as a mom, having that as a podcast host, having that as an author, having that as a corporate CEO, I think having that skill supersedes
Can I
and
add
trumps everything
something?
else.
Yeah, I love.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. I think trust is huge in success, because what happens is, I'm trusting my husband. When we moved down to Florida from New York, I
Yep.
had no idea if it was going to work. I really didn't. Trusting God, of course, but then I had to trust that my husband was going to, support us financially. And that was me letting go of control. And so to let go of control, you
it's
have
hard
to
to do.
trust something else. And
Yep.
so, you got to trust him. You got to trust the kids that they're going to be. And that really is what happens, is you let go of that feeling that I'm in control of everything.
Yeah.
You just got to let it go.
Oh,
And
it's
I
so
think
good.
it's almost like, all right, I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to let go.
Yeah. Julia, I'll let you start out with this one. Then Gino, you feel free to jump in as well. What's the key ingredient then for, while having success in real estate investing, maintaining your priorities, your faith, your family, and having success in those areas as well?
Yeah, I think honestly, every day I have to just sit and reflect on, am I doing too much with him as far as business wise? Am I taking too
You're
much
never
away
doing
from
too
the
much with
kids?
me, baby. You could always do more.
But I do. I have to reflect on it in the morning, and I have to say, okay, where am I and where should I be? Because a lot of times, like I said earlier, it's very tempting. I love working with him. It's very fun. Like, I let him do the hard parts, and I just
There you
jump
go.
in when it's fun.
Good job. Yep.
So, and
Yep.
tempting. So every morning I have to say, okay, where should I be? Am I neglecting my kids a little bit? Am I neglecting the house a little bit? And where am I? Do you know what I mean? And so
Goes
that's
back to
really
those values and what,
100%.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it's an everyday
Sure.
thing. It's not
Oh,
once
yeah.
in a while. It's constantly, because sometimes the kids need you more.
Right.
Sometimes they don't.
Yep.
When they grow up, there's certain ages they need you more than others, and certain people are different. Each kid is different. So I think that's been the challenge, but I'm somewhat figuring it out.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah.
Gino, anything to add there?
I mean, you have to really schedule your week out, and
There you go,
everything
yeah,
needs to
yeah.
be everything needs to be dialed in. Okay, we're doing this week. We're doing this weekend. I've got a call 3:00. The kids are going to singing today at 3. They're going to come back. We're going to have dinner tonight. It has to be all part of the plan. If you don't plan your day, your day gets away from you, and all of a sudden
Sure.
you look back
Yep.
and go, "What happened today?" And then same thing happens tomorrow, and the same thing happens the next day. I think by planning. And does the plan go well all the time? I mean, when you get punched in the face, as Tyson says, things change, but
Yep.
at least you have something from where to start
Yeah.
with.
Well, I think,
Yep.
you just said the planning is so important, and to be open to change.
Yes.
Because some of us just want it to be how it's written in the schedule.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
be open.
Mhm.
I got to the point where I look at my schedule in the morning. I'm like, this is what we have to do. And there's no worrying about tomorrow and later. And you know what I mean? We just focus
Kids
on
teach
what's
you
in
those
front of
things.
us.
Kids are so good at
Absolutely.
teaching you
Kids
those
teach us
things.
so much. If we just
Oh,
pay
yeah.
attention, they teach
Yep,
us so
yep.
much. Yeah.
Oh, it's good stuff. I often like to ask for a real estate book. Gino, feel free to plug one of yours. You've got a couple great ones. But do you guys have any also maybe a good like family book? Anything that
I have
here we go. Yeah. That's
next
right.
to
That's
it.
right. I heard
Hold
about
on.
these. Okay.
She was a
She's
non-marketer
ready.
2 years ago.
I wasn't
Now
a
she's like,
marketer.
bam.
But I have to tell you that my husband, obviously he's into real estate and he does all that fun stuff. But with the kids, we're trying to teach them responsibility all the
I
time.
love this. Yeah.
And so what we did was we came with 2 books and their cartoons, a gelato blast and the cannolis exploded. And it's about 3 characters,
Yeah.
One of them's very responsible, Rhino. One's pity party
This
pig.
is
one's
awesome.
creative
Yeah.
caterpillar. And it just takes you on this journey of something really bad happens. And what are you going to do?
Yep.
And that's what it is. And so I will send a few to your children.
Just go to
Oh,
Jake.
that's awesome.
Go to jakeandgino.com/coloring pages. And you can go on there. There's activity guides, there's pages,
so
and
cool.
it's
I
got
love
some
that.
great videos on there
It's
as
good
well.
for adults. It's written obviously for children, but I
Yeah.
have to tell you that, my brother calls me and tells me about the book all the time, and he's 50. So it's good for the older crowd because we could relate to it, and it's humorous, and it's
Yeah.
it's a conversation
It's
we
great
can have
to share
with
with
kids.
children. Yes.
Because
Oh,
we
that's
sometimes just forget to teach them basic.
Oh, that's good.
Who do you
Oh,
hang
yeah.
out with?
No, I know.
Who's your
Yeah.
mentor? You know what I mean? Like all
Yep.
those, and there is real estate in it, just so you know.
Yes.
There's some real estate in
Gino
there.
snuck it in there. Snuck in
Yeah,
real
of
estate on a
course.
couple pages.
The Moose
That's
is,
awesome.
mentor Moose. Everyone's like, is that Gino? I said, I guess so. I
guess so. That's awesome. No, yeah, I'm going to look those up. This has been so much fun, guys. Gino, I've been following you for a long time. You've been very instrumental in my journey through buying some apartment buildings, and that's allowed me to walk away from my job and help us transform our lives. So thank you and Jake for that. But more importantly, guys, my wife is so much more important than all that. My kids are so much more important than all that. So I appreciate that you guys have come together, and now you're putting great content out there talking about what is more important. Now, real estate can be an amazing vehicle to allow us to have this incredible life that we want for our families, follow Christ in a better way maybe, but man, you've got to focus on that. So thanks for coming on. This has been so beneficial for me and my listeners.
Thanks, Lee.
Oh,
We
this has been
appreciate
fun.
it.
Thanks, Lee.
Yeah. Guys, before I let you go, I always ask my guests, how might my listeners and I be praying for you guys in the coming weeks?
Oh my gosh. I think we're going on vacation. We're going on
We're on a trip to
Italy trip with his
Oh,
mother. So that
Wait, and how many
She's fun.
kids?
We're going for 2 weeks.
we're all going.
Yeah, we're going.
All the kids?
And-
Oh my
and I-
goodness.
Yeah,
That's
everybody.
amazing.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. And I'm
Wow.
thankful that we have the opportunity. But I think just future prayers on our whole mission, as far as,
Yeah,
for my mission
sure.
is really just exactly what we're talking about, is just showing people that marriage and family is amazing. It's a lot of work, but it's so worth it. And I think that's our mission. That's what my message is. And I just, maybe the prayers
I
for
love
that,
that.
for strength.
For sure. Absolutely. We'll love to pray for that. Well, good. Thanks again, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Appreciate you coming on. Have a great day.
Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode. I hope you'll take action on what you've learned today. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider leaving Lee a 5-star rating and review. And check him out on threefoldrei.com. Until next time, 1 Timothy 6:17.